Discussion of structural considerations surrounding the Water Resources and Public Works departments, and consideration of direction to staff to initiate recruitment for relevant leadership roles. And before we start on that conversation, we will take a lunch break after this item, and we will return at approximately 1 o'clock. Okay, so just in case anybody was waiting for another item, so they're aware that we will not continue until after 1 o'clock. I think I'm going to pass it to Mr. Carter to start this off, since it's got administrative office as the sponsor.
I will go ahead and do so. I was told this was going to be board-led, but so on December 5th, 2023, your board received a notice from Public Works Director and Water Resources Director, Scott DeLeon, that he will retire effective June 30th. This notice requires additional planning to the best manage the subsequent time of transition. Some restructuring of water resources and public works needs to be looked at, whether your board goes with Scott's recommendation or not. Staff needs guidance on how to structure water resources as a separate department, keeping fiscal as part of DPW or fully separating. And I think it would be best for Scott to actually, since he's here, to explain a little bit about what his plan was.
Director DeLeon.
Thank you. So the current configuration had a deputy director of water resources, and as you all know, she has moved on, and so combine that with my plan, you have the opportunity to decide which way we're going to go here. Recruiting a public works director is going to be challenging just in and of itself, but hiring someone who also has experience in managing water resources is going to be an even more daunting task, in my opinion. You have an opportunity right now with the vacancy in the deputy director role. You have an opportunity to change that to a director, and your board would make that recruitment and make that decision for a director of water resources. You'd be separating that responsibility away from the public works director position, which, by the way, according to HR, the current public works director job description doesn't really have anything related to water resources. So you'd have to modify that if you're going to keep the departments together. I'm recommending that you separate them. You have a job description for a public works director, and you have a job description for water resources director, and I'm recommending that you solicit applications for each director with one caveat, and that is to keep the current DPW Administrative Division, which is Budget Unit 1903, in place and providing the clerical and fiscal management and oversight of both departments, which is exactly what it's doing right now. Budget Unit 1903 takes contributions from the various budget units that it provides services for, and we do a calculation every year to determine an equitable balance of those contributions. There would be no change in that. The only difference is going to be you're going to have a director of public works and you're going to have a director of water resources, and as I stated in my letter to you all, your expectation is that those two directors work together and collaboratively in sharing DPW admin as the oversight of the administrative side of both departments. As I stated in my letter, DPW admin right now, the division that you have is the strongest division I have ever seen in my 25 years as a public works employee. They are a well-oiled machine. You have succession plan in place. You have backup, and when someone is sick, you have somebody to take over. You have a really well operating division there, and to split it just because you're going to split it and create two separate departments is really going to be detrimental to the operation of that division. And so I'm strongly encouraging you to keep them together, let them continue the oversight of both departments. Again, it's simply a contribution at budget time. It's something we've been doing for several years, and it's working very, very well. And there's no structural change at all to the operation of the two departments. You're just going to have two different department heads. And really, what's going to happen, the Deputy Director Marina handled the day-to-day operations of Water Resources. And basically all you're doing is you're going to be upgrading that position to a director position, and it's still going to oversee the day-to-day operations. So very little change, and that's my recommendation.
Quick question, was this the way it occurred, the dual usage of your finance team when David Cowan was also the Water Resources Director?
No.
He had his own finance team and you had your own in Public Works? Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to see if it had already been in existence like that before.
It had not. And one of the things that I did when after David left and I got Water Resources back as a director, I intentionally created DPW admin to oversee all of the budget units of Water Resources.
Right, and that makes sense. Any comments? Supervisor Pyska?
I agree with the recommendation. I think we're not going to be able to recruit someone to do both roles. That's going to slow us down. You've built a fantastic admin support in your departments, and I think we just proceed as recommended.
Supervisor Green?
Yeah, just a quick question. So on Budget Unit 1903, how many positions in that are FTEs right now?
Well, it includes the director, assistant director. I don't know the exact number. I think it's around 12.
For the fiscal admin part of it? 12, oh,
I'll tell you in just a second.
okay. But we can always come back to that later. So, yeah, I also agree with the recommendation for dual.
1903 has 13 FTEs.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Supervisor Simon?
I agree with moving forward in that direction with the recommendation also. I don't know, Stephen, if you had any comments or anything. I saw you said, all right, just want to make sure.
No, I just was going to bring up that when Water Resources was absorbed by DPW, the accountant went into that unit, and it has worked well. So I don't see a problem there. And if the recommendation is accepted at mid-year, we would bring back a position allocation change for the deputy to switch over to a director of water resources so that everything can start the process.
One of the things that I'm curious about, especially as of late, there's a little bit more emphasis on water resources, whether it be Middle Creek or it be the hitch emergency that we have. I'd like to ask admin to come back and see, is it possible to have a deputy and a director in water resources?
It's all about whether it's financially feasible, so.
That's my question.
Well, as a follow-up, didn't we just in the last budget cycle add 2 positions in response to the hitch emergency? I don't know that they've been filled yet, but if we needed Rob Peter to pay a Paul, I agree, looking at both a director hire and a deputy director, and then if we need to take away one of the allocations we just made for line staff, then that might be something to look at. But if I understand, those allocations have not been filled, right?
They're currently being
Recruited?
advertised and
Okay.
recruited, yes.
Because the reason I ask is for succession planning for future resignations or retirements from water resources. I know we have a deputy director, which we're hoping to eventually fill over at Public Works, but that succession plan may not exist in the same formal way in water resources, and future boards will have to figure out more difficult pathway on how to move forward. So I don't want to stand firm on that's what I want. I'd love to see what that looks like and if that's within our capacity to do. I'd love to hear from the board if
Well,
that's,
yeah, I think we just add that to our direction today because all of our departments have either a deputy or an assistant so that we have that planning and it's got to be part of the,
but it sounded today like we were just going to switch it from the deputy director to director, and I'm asking that we at least take a look, but I need your guys' consensus.
I agree with that,
Yep.
that conversation being brought back to the board.
Okay.
And see, that means it can't really actually come as part of mid-year budget then, because I need something in mid-year budget to decide, have the board decide. So if it is, in admin's opinion, feasibly, financially feasible, add a director and a deputy. If we don't see it as being truly fiscally feasible, we'll bring it without that option and present why during mid-year.
well,
And
and also what about one of the positions that's already there could be reallocated?
And with them flying right now, that's the kind of conversation I'll have with Director De Leon, et cetera.
Knowing your board's interest in the deputy and, you know, I've managed both of these departments, both singularly and combined, and managing the staff on a day-to-day basis and being the director is extremely difficult. There are a lot of things happening. There's a lot of projects. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's difficult. And though the department is relatively small, they have a lot of irons in the fire. They have a lot of projects, and so it's really a fiscal question, and it's something that we could look at. And you know, one of the reasons why I set my date as June, end of June, was to help prepare the budgets for the departments. Your direction today will help us in that, and we can certainly evaluate that, and it'll be part of our budget presentation.
Okay. It looks like you have consensus to look into that and come back and let us know what you find. And consensus to splitting them back up into individual departments. Okay.
Great.
One timing question, because it is going to be hard to recruit. Will we start recruiting as of today's direction, or do we wait until the June 3rd? Just a question.
Neither one, actually. It would,
Okay.
sorry. As soon as the positions are created, like the Director of Water Resources, that will go live technically to FTE 2/6, the same time as mid-year. That one can start flying right away, and then I'd have to talk to HR, but because we have a specific letter signed, et cetera, we can start for the DPW position at least a month to 2 months ahead.
We just know how long it's going to be. It's going to be hard to recruit.
I know we can start early because of his letter.
Not trying to get you out of here, but look at it, we
No,
have someone,
I-
it'd be great to have
I'd like to see-
you looking at it.
I'd like to see you start recruiting for a director of public works today.
Yeah.
I mean,
That was my question.
I think that we should do that. And when that position allocation for the Director of Water Resources gets adjusted during your mid-year meeting, then you'll be, I think you're eligible to start recruiting for that. So,
So I'm not clear, Stephen, was it by a current HR policy that we would have to wait a couple months to fly his position? Or if we're locked and loaded and have a firm
That's
termination
just it.
date?
I need HR to answer that question more than, I know we can go early because of his letter of explicit date of when he is retiring. We can start early. I don't know how early without HR.
Okay.
Giving
So
the
can we by consensus signal as soon as possible, our preference and pending and further information that you do get from HR?
I was
Speaking
hoping
of,
Pam would come in.
Oh, look,
keywords were said.
Yes, I heard my name. Good morning, Pam Samek, Director of HR. And with the notice, we can start ASAP as soon as we have salary guidelines, because if we're withdrawing water resources, it may change the salary.
So I believe that there was, when we combined them, there was a specific percentage increase. So I think that we still have that salary for the individual, I would suspect. for a singular department.
We do, but really the salary changed so much with the 2018 compensation. I did try to bench it, but it's not the same because of all of the lake bed management. And I went out to all water departments in our counties, and they're different. So I made some recommendations, which I'll work with Stephen with, and then I think we could develop the salary from there. So it really depends on if we're pulling them apart or keeping them together.
Well, I agree with the mood of the board, the earlier the better to get this moving, but yeah, it sounds like we need to kind of dissect this and get more specific on what the salaries would be, but if we can get that in February so that we can start, because I don't like the 1 to 2 months just in case that we're not catching anyone in our net, and I want to make sure that we have the time to be able to catch.
And the water resource is more difficult, as is the Director of Public Works. One has a engineering certification, which is going to be very difficult and has been difficult in the past when we looked at engineering just separately to bring in some resource. It was very difficult to get somebody with that certification. On the water resource side, it's a master's degree, and the old job description said they wanted a PhD. Which I think is a little,
That's why we contract.
yes. So I think we have to really dive into this a little bit more, but the sooner we start recruiting for it, the better.
Yeah. Okay.
And if we have to rebench this, does it have to go to class and comp? I just want to be respectful of the process, but I also want to skip it if I can.
Not necessarily. I mean, we just have to create a salary that's going to draw the right kind of candidates in. I think we have some guidelines. And once we kind of agree based on whatever the job is going to be, then I think we can bring it back to the board to review.
With the information provided today from your board, we have enough information to have almost everything ready for you early February.
Okay.
And that all needs to be behind the scenes for now while we work out certain pieces.
Okay. Works for me. Let's, any final comments?
Well, I'm just going to strongly suggest that you not reduce the salary of the Public Works Director as it is currently. There was some adjustment prior to the class and comp and the salary increases as a result of that study. There were some adjustments when I took back water resources back in 2017. That was prior to all of the adjustments. And the adjustments incorporated and took the benchmark of the Public Works, a Public Works Director. So I would encourage you not to do that, but not to reduce it. You're gonna have a hard enough time recruiting, and the salary is what it is. We have it in our budgets, and I would encourage you not to decrease it, but we can work on that.
Yep, no, we'll figure it out, but thank you, noted. Let's go ahead and open it up for the public. We do have a hand up in Zoom, Elizabeth Larson from Lake County News.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So Director De Leon had mentioned a few things as he was speaking about an internal succession plan and as well as a lot of projects. And so I'm curious about, in the midst of all of this consideration, how handoff of these major projects like the Hill Road East, Hillside and Road stabilization, the levees, the road projects, Middle Creek, how all of that's going to be handled in the midst of this recruiting and, the succession planning, and how his internal succession planning accounts for that.
And I will respond that it's going to be a very delicate process to ensure that we do have a warm handoff. And we are responsible for ensuring that there's continuity here in the county. I'm not sure if Director De Leon wants to respond to that as well. But I think that we as a board are responsible for ensuring that we continue on those projects and don't let anything slip through the cracks.
Yeah, I guess I would just add that, I recently entered into a contract with Coastland Engineering to provide staff augmentation specifically for our engineering and inspection division, but they have project oversight, engineers, construction people. So the department could rely on outside consultants for that. And I also don't have any intentions of just walking away and leaving things without anyone, to handle them and just leaving everyone with a bunch of unfinished projects. I plan to assist in any way I can with that transition.
And that was also one of the reasons for asking about the deputy director, because that could potentially help out with that whole process of transition as well, rather than relying on one individual who would be potentially new to the community and the agency. And so I think that there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, and we need to make sure that we move as quickly as possible, and it looks like we are going to see this coming back to us. Did you have any further questions? I see that your hand is still up.
Sorry about that. I forgot to lower it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no further hands in Zoom and nobody getting up in our chamber, and looks like direction has been provided to staff, and we'll have this come back to us as soon as possible.